It's a little more detailed video for creating the wheel. Go into the sculpt environment. Create a cylinder. Use the guide. When you create this first cylinder, this is the tire. So you want to create that outside diameter. What size you think the tire should be. So you're trying to decide, is it some kind of crazy monster truck or is it something small? Somewhere in between is probably the right way to go. Somewhere in there. Maybe 800 millimeters. Alright, so there's the wheel. Everything is based off of this face. If you start to create cylinders that are different than that, it can get confusing. So based off that face is how you can stay accurate. Then to create the shape of the wheel, it's important to first add some symmetry. If I right click and say edit form, I can double click to grab a ring, and I'm holding Alt, the Alt key on my keyboard. That's the critical part. Alt, hold that down. Then you can scale, and you notice here it adds information, adds another series of lines there, extra faces, and there's the wheel. And the cool part is I'm about done. I can maybe come back and add additional faces or grab this ring by double clicking. I'm pulled a little bit closer, and what that does, is it makes this edge sharper. If I go really close, it'll be too sharp. Pull it just right. Look at it from different angles to understand what that tire is going to look like. Alright, so there it is. Say OK. This one's essentially done. If I wanted to, I can come back and I can modify, thicken it. I wait till the end, but you can try it, finish form, make sure everything's okay. The next step is to create another cylinder, again using the guide. This one's for the rim. So I'm going to create it just inside of the tire. You can actually snap to it, it'll snap there. And you can pull it out. Let's get a look at this. Side view. You can see a little dashed line until you've got it. Now, one important thing to note, this is a concept model. So it doesn't have to be perfectly accurate. You're going for a look and a design. So you can, if you want to, you can be accurate. So I can say this is 400 millimeters. It's not critical at this point. Say OK. And I'll do the same thing. I'll add some symmetry. So I'll say this side's the same as that side. Double click to grab a ring. And pull this close to the edge here. And I'm going to holding control on my keyboard, I can get more than one ring. And I can scale these together. So I'll look at that from a different view here. So there's the inside of that rim. This value is a percentage. So 1 is like 100%. And if I go larger than that, it's 125%. And so on. You can type in a value there if that helps. Click away. I might come back and add a face if this is too rounded for my liking. Maybe I want to come back and double click, modify, insert an edge. If I drag the edge out here, I'll get a tighter return. I got really sharp, so I'm going to play with that. Maybe I move this back. That to be how I'd like it to look. Great. Now this is perfectly flat across, so I also might want to come back in and edit the form, and use the scale, no Alt key this time, just simply scale without pressing any keys. And I can create that inside of the rim. Might be shaped something like that. And I can say OK. And again, I could give that some thickness. The next step is to come in and put the spoke. So again, I'll use a cylinder, grab this guide, and I'll add a cylinder here. Now this is the center hub size, so you can decide what that size is. Make mine 70. Now it's too far back. The hub wants to be out here, so I can edit form. If I double click on a face, it grabs the entire body. If it's selected, I can see through the other objects. Pull that out, closer to the front, wherever you'd like that to be for your starting point. Say OK. Now the one thing I forgot to do, and it's really critical, I've got 8 faces, but I want to show you what this would look like. If I do symmetry on an even object, and I do a symmetry circular, click on this face, you'll notice I have options. I can do body with 2, 4, or 8. So I pick 8, that was the max. I can have 8 spokes. If I do something that, and I'm going to hold Alt here to add this out. So there's 8. If I did something that was an odd number, like 5, I would just have the option 5. I'll go ahead and go with this one. So here it is. I'm starting that to pull that out. And I might come back and hit Alt on my keyboard again, grab the move, and I can add to this. I can rotate a bit as I go along. Now I can scale as I go. The cool thing is I can focus on just essentially one of these, and it does the whole thing with the symmetry. So I can push and pull on these surfaces, create some thickness I might like to go for. Double click to grab rings, hold Control to get more than one. Holding Shift and my middle mouse button to orbit around. Pull that back. And again, I can focus on just one, so I can hold Control, grab these faces. I want to thicken this a bit before I go on. So pull this back and get a thicker shape. Now I can come back and add some additional faces, so I grab on this, hold Alt, I can pull that out. Now again, because I'm being conceptual, it's okay that these don't match up perfect. I can simply drag this into the rim, and that can be good enough. If I want to get to more of a flat end to this, I can hold Alt again, and again, when the lines are close together, it creates a more flat surface. That's going to create a more blunt tip. So there it is. Now I can simply sculpt, press and pull, focus on any of these I'd like to create the shape I'd like. And this part's simply up to you. How do you want this to look? How do you want it to feel? Hold Control to grab several shapes at a time. Couple little tricks is to come in and insert edges. So if I double click a line, I'll grab that whole line, modify, insert edge. If I pull these edges close together, and I do it a second time, I can get some sharper edges here. So now I've got a sharper edge there on the top and a smoother transition on the bottom. One trick to that before you start adding edges is you want to modify this generally as much as you can before you do that. Get the overall shape. Adding edges adds complexity, so the modifications you make after adding edges want to be simple. Alright, so you can see there I'm starting to model this how I'd like it. And I would continue on and do some additional steps here. For time I'm going to stop soon, but I'm going to do a couple extra modifications so we can really give this depth and understand your design. Now the last step to make this a solid is I need to come back, modify. There's a command here called fill hole. Fill hole, find that. I simply click on an edge that's open and it's going to fill the hole. I've been working on this so it already picked a good option, but you have different options here. Reduced star. There's a fill star, which essentially, that one actually didn't work at all, but it will fill the hole with no lines. And I can collapse. It'll collapse everything down together. If you scroll through these options, some of these are going to work for you, some won't. Some will be similar. So find the one that's going to work for your model. Say OK. And I come back. Right click, edit form. Whoops. I actually want to do the modify fill hole. This part's up to you. You could fill the hole, or at this point you could thicken it. I'll do the fill hole. That simplifies things. Say OK. And now it's moment of truth. We want to finish form. See if there are any errors. No errors on this one. It finished fine, so that was good. But you might have to come in and untangle some things. Zoom in, untangle. I'm going to go back, hit undo. If you need to untangle, remember that you've done this in 3 separate bodies, so you can turn off some of these different bodies, get them out of the way to get to the shape you want to untangle. These are the outside shapes are just surfaces right now, so I might come back and say modify thicken and give this some thickness before finishing the form. So that's going to have some thickness, and I can go inside or outside with that, and I'll repeat the thicken command here, repeat thicken. I'll give that some thickness as well. Sometimes when you thicken, that can cause problems. Let's see if I have any. Finish form. Still good, but you might have some things to untangle. Now with this, you could add some tread here. If you've got it thickened properly, and that's creating a pattern, so you might come back and create some additional shapes that can be sculpted or sketched. Repeat that around, and then come back and add your materials. Appearance. And there's some rubber in here. If you look under other, rubber, and whatever you'd like for the center. Once you've got that, you'll notice you've got some bodies in here. You can right click on one of these and say create components from bodies. You can double click that name and you can call this whatever you'd like, whatever makes sense to you. I'm going to call mine wheel and tire. And I've got these other parts, so the rim, I'll drag that in here, and the spokes, I'll drag that in there as well. Now I've got one component. Good time to save. And now you can right click and you can say copy, and then right click and say paste. And now you've got a second wheel. You can pull that across, line it up. These wheels are pretty large, so you can see what an 800mm wheel would look like. There you go. And now you can repeat that again. You can right click and say copy paste. You might also want to try the create mirror. I'm going to unselect everything first. Create mirror. Select the objects. What's the type? So faces, bodies. I want to do components. I can grab one, hold control and grab two. Then to select the mirror plane, I turn on my origin here. Let's see if I can grab that mirror plane here. Select mirror plane. and now they're on the other side. And I've got all 4. Great. And there you go. And for this one I was going quick. I went pretty large. See, these are probably bigger than you probably want for your wheels, but there they are. Some nice big wheels. And you're good to go. The next step obviously is to come in, create your rendering. Remember, of course, to go to your setup, add an environment, adjust your focal length, maybe your exposure if you need to, definitely the focal length, and you get that more dramatic shot but not overkill. 35mm camera is pretty typical camera out there, and focus in on one of your wheels, give us a really good shot and render that.